Hey everybody, it's Stephanie with The Learning Project. You guys, I'm back with another great podcast, you guys. I have somebody really special that I just met, you guys, okay? So I always have random stories about how I meet people, how I connect with people. So I'm in a coffee shop, having coffee with another person. M, shout out, she'll be on the podcast too. And we're sitting there and she's like telling me about, people running for city council and, how these, how things need to change in our community. And she was like, hey, have you met Lou? And I'm like, who is that? And I'm like, no, I don't know who this is. And she was like, she does yoga. I was like, wait a minute, another Black girl in our town doing yoga? She was like, yeah. And I was like, no, I do not know her. And she's like, let me call her. And she's like, Lou, you want to come and meet us at the coffee shop? Lou comes over. That's who we have on the podcast today. I'll tell y'all, I literally, when I met her, I was just like, Lou is legit. Like your energy, your vibe, your passion for community, the way you're able to break things down to make them relatable for us to be able to see things in a different light. So love all of that. And I was like, I have to have her on the podcast series. So Lou, welcome to The Learning Project. We're so glad you are here. Welcome, sis.
Oh, thank you so much, Stephanie. I'm so excited to be here. And I'm so excited that these stories are being told and that somebody from our community is working hard to highlight who we are and what we're doing. And I feel like a lot of us are out here doing so many things and nobody talks about it. And I'm always shocked that people don't know that there's these amazing humans in our community that are creating magic. So yes. I'm super excited to be here.
Yes, and that's literally the whole premise of this, because so many times we go through our little town of Spokane, Washington, and we're like, you know what? No one's doing anything. We don't know what's going on. And you know what? I was just like so sick of talking about people not doing anything and we don't know where anybody is except when Hoop Fest hits around and you see all the minorities and you like, where all these people come from? Do y'all not buy your groceries at the store? Where are y'all? And so, when I saw this opportunity, I was just like, I just wanted to embrace it and just give my love back to my community. So I so love Spokane and the things that we do and the opportunities we have here. And it's just a gold mine. And I feel like this is our time to shine and grow and develop and support one another. Like that's the big thing. So Lou, tell everybody, who are you?
I will say I love Spokane. Like I was definitely one of those people too that grew up here and said I would move away and never come back. But I love it here. I grew up here in the 99207 zip code, which on the state level has been the most economically depressed zip code in several censuses.
Wow.
And I'm a first generation college student. I got my bachelor's degree in psychology here at Eastern Washington University. And I specifically got my bachelor's in psychology because I wanted to do research and prove that after school programs work. And so I started my career working in after school programs. Really, it was to radicalize youth, but, and it was really, growing up in poverty, I felt like nobody leveled with me. Yeah. Nobody said, hey, this is what you have to overcome, what your challenges will be, the shame that you'll feel when you start accessing these different experiences that very few people who look or are like you are at.
Wow.
And so that's what kind of initially was my drive for going into psychology, to prove that after school programs work, that they provide an opportunity for young people to really level the playing field. After I graduated from Eastern, I went and worked for Boys and Girls Clubs in Southern Nevada. I love Boys and Girls Clubs. I will be BGC forever, but it definitely provided me an amazing opportunity. It was a national nonprofit that provided great professional development. From there, I was able to work in clubs. I left Las Vegas after about 4 or 5 years, worked in Southern Oregon doing fundraising, and then right back home, because when you're out there doing community work, you get this pull to do it back in your community. Yep. And I feel so lucky to have grown up in Hilliard, because what we did get was, we didn't have money and we didn't have a lot of things, but we had community. Yep. And that's one thing that I had always hung on to, is that we cared about each other. When I walked into school and one of my friends was having a bad day because of real life situations of parents not being able to keep the lights on, or a fight, or, you know, all of these things, and we were there for each other. So I came home, worked in the clubs here. Shortly, I was recruited by Empire Health Foundation to be a senior program associate. So I did the philanthropic thing for a while. Really, my goal was houselessness and bringing dollars into our region on a federal level. And honestly, that too created a pivot for me. I looked at economic development in a different way at that point. When you're a student of poverty and you're studying it and you're understanding it, you realize that, you know, somebody who's born in a better socioeconomic situation, but parents might be alcoholics or abusive, their outcomes are so much better from that kid in Hilliard who's growing up under those same circumstances. And so economic realities became super important to me, and I became an entrepreneur in the cannabis space. I worked in the cannabis space for a little over 5 years with ownership points in a couple brand lines, Bodhi High, Honey Tree, and Odd Duck, and then the body care line, which is Bodhi Elements. Built out a whole manufacturing entity. And during that time, I got my MBA because I needed to know more. And why not? So, in 3 years, we went from our first year, we did $1 million, and we started in May. So we didn't even start first quarter. And we did $1 million our first year, $2 million the second year, 3 million the third, averaging out with, you know, the bumps of the reality for that. Go
ahead, Lou.
Oh, yeah, I'm not mad about it. It was a great experience. But COVID also created another pivot for me. I feel like COVID did this thing where it allowed us to kind of pull in and be reflective. And at that time, I was a board president of Spectrum, which is an LGBTQIA2 plus center. And had just gotten our first big chunk of funding. And what we were seeing is like COVID was hitting, mutual aid was starting. And even though I had not been in the community for a really long time, I was feeling this pull to show up in a different way. And so I got involved with mutual aid projects. And I started listening more about what was happening in our city and who was making economic decisions for our city. And that's when I decided to run for public office. And so I decided to run for city council. And, you know, that was, I didn't make it past the primary, but it was a great experience in understanding the city. And if anything, I hope it inspires people to be more engaged in the city level of politics, because we can really make changes there. The small is reflective to the big. And so if we can change our city, the national realities change too. And so I'm just very committed to shifting focus. And you talked about me being a yoga teacher. So that too, when you're in a startup, it's very stressful and it's painful. And I had found myself needing something that really grounded me. At the same time, if you're in justice work or social service work, you see what this work does to our bodies and our spirit and our souls. I'm serious. Like, you know, I was watching friends that, you know, were having endometriitis, and I'm not saying yoga cures that at all, because it doesn't, but to me, those illnesses are directly related to the stress that we put ourselves under. And so that's kind of where that's why I decided to become a yoga teacher. You know, yoga is not about being a thin white woman. It really is about connecting with yourself and learning to create space for that. And I knew that I looked different, and the perspective that I would bring to yoga would create a place where more diverse humans would find safety and security and be able to settle their souls. And it's what saved me in a startup. It was yoga that really helped me be able to do the hard work every single day.
Oh my gosh. Listen, y'all, if y'all not ready, get ready, because this is going to be a good podcast. Okay. I will just tell you this. If you're not watching the video, you're probably not seeing all of my facial expressions and me moving and squirming, because I'm trying to hold all my stuff inside. I'm trying to let Lou explain some things, but I just want to say yes.
Oh, and I'm also the emergent strategist for SIMBA, Spokane Independent Metro Business Alliance. And I am in love with the economic work that they're doing in our community. And yes. I was offered a lot of opportunities after running for city council, aside from running my own consulting business. Mm-hmm. And this was the one thing that I was like, yeah. With the commerce dollars coming in and the work that SIMBA had already done to create some opportunity for multi-ethnic businesses in community with our multi-ethnic business chambers, not as an independent entity, but as a community of chambers that serve multi-ethnic businesses.
Oh my goodness, I'm ready to dig into all of that because let me tell you guys. So let's just talk about this first thing that you said that was really important that I feel that is crucial to our listeners as they hear or as they're listening or watching. You mentioned the word pivot. Okay. You kept saying that, I pivoted to this, I pivoted to that, I pivoted to this. Some of our listeners are in that space in their life, right? So my question to you, as you went through all of these different pieces of your life, this journey, when did you know that it was the right move for you? And I think that I want to settle in that because a lot of times the work we do, regardless if we are creating our own business or we're working within an organization or we're trying to make change or we're trying to dig deep within ourselves. You guys know I got that next series coming up called Self-Love because that causes a lot of conversation about knowing yourself in such an intimate way. And even in the social justice realm, when you are working and seeing the darkest, the dustiest, the craziest parts of our life, and you have to swallow that and then put a face on and then smile and then all the different intersectionalities that we carry. Lou, tell me, like, how did you know that it was time to pivot, whether it be that job or it be that degree or it would be that place? And taking on city council, let me just tell you guys, if you haven't watched the video of Lou on the city council panel, they kind of, let me know if I'm saying the right words. So they had the panel and they asked the different candidates questions. And Lou came in, like she did a phenomenal job. I was like cheering her on. I really was. And so let's talk about pivot. What does that mean to you and how do you know it needs to happen?
First of all, I'm not going to pretend like I'm out here doing what I do without a ton of support. It is professional coaches that either my entity invested in or me. Those professional coaches taught me how to be in my body and how to respond to what was going on around me. And so there's two things that always made me pivot. I was either uncomfortable or I was inspired. And so when those two things when one of those two things hit, there were times I pivoted because I was uncomfortable. Yeah. I knew that something wasn't settled with me. I wasn't feeling joy in where I was at. Yeah. And that was uncomfortable. And in that uncomfortableness, I had to make a decision about, okay, so what is going to bring me joy? What is going to shift this dynamic in a way that I can feel inspired again and excited about what I'm doing. And so those pivots always came, or it was inspiration. Leaving Boys and Girls Club was not an easy choice for me. No. I was very settled. I was super comfy in a national nonprofit. I was well taken care of. I was cared about. And I was inspired, though, when Empire Health Foundation offered me this opportunity to do system level change. How can I not? Yep. How can I not move to that next level and learn and grow and do the thing in a bigger way? Because the thing is always about justice. It's always about creating a more accessible, equitable experience for people. And so those were the two times. I mean, that's just two examples, but in every situation, whether it's when I got more involved in community, I was inspired and I was uncomfortable. I was seeing how our city was ran, and in the city, it still ran through nepotism. Mm-hmm. It still ran through a good old boy system of relationship and family and narrow beliefs of what success can be. And you know, I think this is also important to mention. You know, we talk about leaving. Most of us leave because we know that in a different market, we are more marketable. Here, we would not have gotten the opportunity if we stayed here.
Lou, y'all, let me tell you, if you didn't hear that, if you don't know, now you know. That is the straight up truth. Pretty much everybody has come on here. We've been talking about, why did you stay here? Why didn't you leave? You know what I mean? And a lot of people are like, I left, but something made me come back. And I knew, like, after college, I was like, I'm getting up out of here. Like, I am not staying in Spokane. I'm not living here. I'm done. And I graduated college, and my husband was from Georgia. He had tons of family down in Augusta. We visited. I was like, you know, I'm not feeling Augusta. It doesn't feel like home. Like, I love it. I love all the pieces of it, but it just didn't feel like home. And home for me was New Jersey. Like, I knew, like, I was going to be East Coasting for life. That was my love. And you know what? I got there and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared. Like, what in the world happened here? Like, everything is different. Everything has changed. And I knew that I needed to go back to Spokane because that felt like home for me. And when I got here, I was like, how can I make space for myself to be my authentic self? Because I think a lot of times so many people get caught up in trying to be somebody else so that they can fit that narrative, so you can have those opportunities and fit those pieces so you can have the chance. And that is not, it just destroys you in so many different ways. And you don't feel like yourself, you feel lost. And exactly what you just talked about. You said something really important I want our listeners to hear. Sometimes you need to have a coach, and you have to have a tribe of people around you that are rooting for you, not tearing you down, not talking about you, not waiting for you to fail so they can say, I told you so. But you said something real powerful. You said, these people helped me to understand what it meant to be in my body. Like, y'all, many of us cannot stand to be within ourselves. Like, when we're doing work and we're in different spaces, it is difficult for us to just be. And that's deep. That's deep to me. And having a coach and having people around you is extremely important, to be in different spaces that really challenge you or also are trying to tear you down. So, Lou, for our listeners that are here, I want to ask you about this yoga practice, because you said something I also think is really important for our listeners to hear, which is, you said yoga doesn't cure, illnesses, right? But it's a part of it. I kind of want to challenge us on that and say it does. It does heal. It is a healing practice. Like, taking Tylenol or taking that sleeping medication or the prescribed medication is not always the end all, right? It's a part of it, right? Please take your medication. If you need it, do not get off of it. Do not do that, okay? What I'm telling you is to go alongside and find other avenues that are going to complement that healing practice. So when you are working with people in that space and helping them find themselves or heal or relax or unwind, what is the biggest challenge for them to understand what it means to be and accept themselves and find true rest?
First of all, it's very hard. And it's very personal too. This is not something that just happens. You have to work for it. So, I have to start by saying that I think a lot of us, especially when we're high performers and we're trying to make up for what our ancestors didn't have.
That part.
We spend a lot of time up here And that's great. We spend a lot of time in our head. We spend a lot of time honing our intellectual abilities.
Yeah.
And you know, I had a moment, and it was not necessarily, I had lots of moments in yoga. I'm naturally flexible. And so yoga, even early on in my life, spoke to me in a way that other physical things didn't. But I was in a spin class for the first time, first spin class, and I left kind of in tears because I realized that I couldn't make my mind move my body the way it was being instructed in this more high speed experience. And it reminded me even more that you are not as connected with your body as you think you are. And so that took me, even though it was in a spin class, it took me deeper into yoga.
Yeah.
And so the biggest challenge I have is letting people know that yoga is for everybody.
Right.
It's not about how flexible you are. It's not about how thin you are. It's not about how able you are. It's truly about how, and you know, we talk about yoga in the form of asana or posture. It is so much more than the posture or the asana. It is truly those things are only used so that you can get into a deeper sense of relaxation and connect deeper with yourself. So my biggest challenge is having people understand, because I met people who are like, I hate yoga. And my heart just breaks. I'm like, how do you hate yoga? But I also understand, like, I've been in classes where an instructor has come up to me and pushed on my body, or I didn't feel like because I'm not, you know, I'm not a size 2, and I don't have like a traditional yoga body. Right. Yoga has always spoken, and I've went to classes where people are like, are you sure you should be here? And I'm like, I'm a lot more athletic than I look, but exactly. And so it's I think deconstructing what Western yoga has done to yoga as a practice, because it's not just about, you know, it's not just there's 8 whole limbs of yoga when it comes to your education. Like, in some ways, I look at yoga as social justice. When you look at in India, the yogis are the ones who really work to push back on the imperialism that was trying to take over. And so it is so much more than just those postures. And it's getting people to understand that yoga is just a movement to help you relax so that you can spend that quiet time with yourself and get an opportunity to connect to yourself. And what's the word? Not decisiveness, but discernment. Like,
discernment. Yeah.
Discernment. Like, to me, that's been my focus for several years now. Is like, how do I feel myself so I can discern the situation better? So I can have a deeper understanding of what's happening here, my role here, and how I support more people in this space, in this time, in this challenge, in this question.
Oh, yeah. I'm telling you. I don't know who needs to hear this. I always tell y'all, don't send anybody flowers. Don't send them candy. Send them a podcast. Send them something that will feed their mind, their soul, their spirit, because somebody needs to hear that. And one of the things that's resonating with me right now is discernment. You know, a lot of times as entrepreneurs, you're also in the space working with SIMBA, and you probably see tons and tons of people, and they just like, they have so many ideas, and they're like, I want to do this. And they're like, I can't figure out what is the right place for me to be. And compliment what you were saying about yoga and being able to just be with yourself and think, and to get that discernment. Like, I really feel like that should be one of the main practices for a business owner, is to go in and like your first session should be like a yoga practice, because you really need that time to just be like, what am I doing? I'm making a huge leap. I remember when I first started my business, people were like, I don't get what are you doing? And who's paying you for this? Like, and then you'd be like, yeah, why are they paying me for this? Or why am I doing this? Like, I do need to get a traditional job, or I don't, you know what I mean? You start battling with yourself, and like, it's you against you and the other person against you. You know, it's crazy. And so it becomes like this fight. So tell us a little bit about what does SIMBA do, and why, maybe I should ask the question, why are you so passionate about what you are doing with them right now?
So I'm passionate about it because I believe that the current situation in the US when it comes to jobs and opportunity and commerce are a direct correlation between the stealing of land and the stealing of labor. Let's be very clear. Generational wealth.
Explain that to people, because that's deep what you just said.
300 years of slavery is theft of labor. The killing and the brutalization of indigenous humans in the Americas is theft of land. Theft of land and labor that has created generational wealth for so many people. I don't ever want to hear nobody say bootstrap to me ever again, because that's not what happened. They got a loan from their father or their mother or somebody else who had generational wealth. I think this myth that people have been gaining opportunity and experience off of the exploitation of labor is exactly what's wrong with our current situation right now. And it expands. Like, it absolutely boils my blood when I hear unskilled labor. I do not care if you are working at McDonald's, if you are working for a multinational, multi-million billion-dollar entity, and you are not compensated in a fair way for your labor, it's bullshit. Sorry.
Absolutely. Yeah, you can. You were perfectly fine. If y'all don't like that, go ahead and rewind it.
And you know what? And these multinational entities have associations that are working hard so that they don't have to equitably provide money in relationship to labor, which is an extension of the exploitation of labor and land that this country was built on.
Wow.
And so I come to places like SIMBA because that's what they do. This is an alliance that is working on the behalf of small businesses, of regionally based businesses, because our regional economy is so much more important than our larger economy. And we are seeing currently the failure. We are seeing the failure in our supply chain. We are seeing the failure in not appreciating, growing and nurturing our regions in all of the regions in the United States. And I say that because that's where we live. But this regional based economy, and I believe that it is entities like SIMBA, like the Black Business and Professional Association, the Hispanic Business and Professional Association, that really wrap our arms around entities and make sure that there is a voice at the table to make sure, because those are the ones supporting our community. It's not multinational companies that are supporting our communities. It is our small, family-owned, regionally based. And then we get into our farmers and the exploitation of them. I mean, it goes on, but ultimately that's why I'm passionate about it, because I know that they need the same level of support that the multinational businesses have.
Wow. Oh my goodness. So first of all, I'm very excited about the position you are in right now. And I know that you're going to be doing some great things in our community. You guys, like you just said so much, it like racks my brain. So I've been telling about this article that I read through the Spokane Review, and it talks about African-American businesses across the United States. 40% of them have closed down due to the pandemic. What is your solution? Like, what do you think we need to do, like within our town? I know, right? Come and load it, but boom. What do you think we need to do within our community when it comes to sustaining, growing, and helping the small businesses in our community? Because I know SIMBA, they don't just work with minorities, they work with everybody, correct?
Right.
And so that's the nice thing about SIMBA I really like, is that they're a reputable organization, and they're very multicultural and very diverse, I feel like, in their platform. So what do you think we need to do? Like, how do we save our community? Because I feel like every time I look around, there's a business that is closing down like faster than I can even spin.
And I can tell you this, SIMBA, 30% of the businesses we serve are multi-ethnic. 30%, and that's in Spokane.
Wow. I didn't even realize.
A little bit outside of Spokane, but ultimately, 30%.
Yeah, no, that's a big number. That's a big number.
Right. And we have, and I think it's so one of the things that I got really excited that SIMBA did and this is how I really got involved with SIMBA, is so Mariah McKay is the founder of SIMBA in 2018. Yeah. She had this beautiful idea of how we bring businesses together and support them. And during the pandemic, there obviously was CARES Act funding available, and she and her team created Live Local. Live Local is a digital main street. And so it is a digital main street and no additional cost for businesses to put them on this digital main street. It also allows us to identify businesses by different identifiers, so that if people wanted a Black-owned business, they could find them. And so companies like Legacy Learners that Lacrecia runs is on there. And so more people can hear about the great education programs that she has or the school that she's building. And so people can really more easily access information and invest in their local community. So you don't have to go to an Amazon. Something that they're working on now are local dollars. So in this next round of funding, Mariah's really working hard so that we can eliminate or create less credit card processing fees for our small businesses. I mean, some of our businesses are spending thousands of dollars on credit card processing, which larger companies get a huge break on. And so, like, how do we continue to support our small businesses and alleviate some of the costs? The digital main street, I think, is just amazing, and we can continue to build that and a very low barrier way to get digital access, even if you might not have a website. For people. And I think that will continue to grow so that we can better help businesses, be more user friendly when it comes to delivery and ordering and things like that.
Wow. Yeah. This is awesome. Like, what you just said, like, a lot of people probably don't even know that's going on right now.
Yeah.
They don't even know.
And we're definitely working on attaining more funding so we can continue to build those programs. Yeah. But those are a huge asset for our community, a digital main street in a regional way, so that every business can have a platform for online ordering or sales or information identified by identifying markers so that you can shop your values. How exciting is that? And
extremely.
And one of the things that I love that they also did is they brought in and that's how I specifically was involved, is they brought in a bunch of consultants to provide free consultation to businesses in I think an 8 to 12 week period, so that and I believe they're all online now, so you can access from financial management, time management, employee management, all the different pieces of running a small business that are really challenging. Because if you're a small business, finding education is really expensive and time prohibitive. Like, if you're in it, it is really hard to make time to go to a class about financing or budgeting or marketing. And so, and the cost to your business to be able to do that. Not knowing that when I talked about coaches, like, I've had entities pay thousands and thousands of dollars for me to have professional coaches and different educational opportunities through those entities. And those are some of the opportunities that we're trying to create for our small businesses.
Wow.
SIMBA does work on like a 4-prong model that thinks about the environment, celebrating creativity or the unique place of a business, and social inclusion, as well as economic opportunity. And we also like to look at the four benefit model, which is people, planet, profit, and policy.
This is really awesome. I'm really glad that you're sharing this part, because one of my goals was to try to contact at least one person from different organizations so that they can come and talk about what their organization is all about. And a couple weeks ago, we did Carl Maxey Center, and now we're talking about what SIMBA offers and how SIMBA is really making a difference in the community. And I think that the thing that I remind everybody is that there needs to be multiple organizations that help people, because one hat is not going to fit all, right? We need people that can speak to our business and our vision and who we are as individuals in such a unique fashion. And I love that they have those 4 points, especially the planet. Like, there's such a need for us to care for our environment in so many different levels. And so I really appreciate you sharing that and giving people a really great view of what SIMBA is trying to do and what you're trying to do as you're working with the organization. When we think about change, we talk about business, we talk about making the pivots in our life. What has been the one thing that you've learned within this realm that has transformed your thinking about how to support one another? I have been asking this question because one of the things that keeps coming up, and yes, I'm going to be very vocal about it, and yes, it's going to come across a little, but you know what? We got to point out our things that we need to correct and talk about, which is there can only be one. And there is this competition that takes place in our community. And this competition is so detrimental. It has tore down many opportunities for many people. It has segregated our community in so many ways. And it really has left a nasty taste in a lot of people's mouth, where they're just like, you know what, I'm leaving. I'm not going to be in this community where people can't even work together. So I'm going to show y'all my shirt. You can't see it on the video, but it says, "Be kind." Okay. I just got this. And I just feel like that message is one that is really hard within our community. And we have to talk about the dividedness, the division that's taking place in our community. We have to. Like, we can get all these dollars. We can have all these great ideas. We can talk about, what we can do, what we should do, but let's just call it out what it is. Like, how do we solve this problem? Like, what in your opinion, in your journey here in Spokane, what are your thoughts about that? And how do we solve that?
So I live an and in both life. Like, to me, there's abundance for everybody. I think the moment that we start thinking that there's not enough for all of us, then we hurt all of us.
Yep.
There is no, I'm sorry, the other business entities, they're not thinking like that. Mm-mm. They're actually working together, and they believe that there is enough for all of us. And I think that we just have to have that mentality. And Stephanie, you said, what is that one thing that kind of, and it really came down, small is all. The small thing we do, the changes we make, even within ourselves, reflect in a much bigger way. That micro does go to the macro. It's small as all. Those little steps you take to create unity and understanding, and both. There is plenty of room for all of us. And, and I think that especially happens in the nonprofit sector a lot. Like, there's not enough to go around. There is plenty to go around.
Yes.
There is more than enough to go around. And the more we work together, the more there is. We are interconnected and we are collaborative, and we have to behave that way. We are an ecosystem that's connected, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. We do not live on an island.
Wow.
And even if we lived on that island, we would be interconnected with all the other species on that island. So this is, I think, the biggest thing that people have to take away is quit acting like at this place of deficit. We have more than enough. We just have to demand it, access it, and pursue it. I strongly believe that what will get us through this is that we all have to agree that there is enough for all of us, and we can do the and in both. And we all need to attack this from every different angle. Yes. Not one course of action is right. We need everybody from every different level and angle to take their skill and their talents and their gift and use those to move things forward, whatever that might be. It might be having conversations with your neighbor. Yeah. It might be getting more involved with a nonprofit or a yoga studio or something. Those little changes that you make reflect in a big way. And I think just getting people to understand, like, you don't have to be grandiose. Yeah. It could be as simple as us having a conversation in this podcast and agreeing that there is abundance available for all of us. And the more we work together, the stronger that will become.
Yeah. I need time to digest this conversation because it's so heavy. Like, when I wanted to do this podcast series, I wanted to hear a lot of different voices about talking about their businesses, vision, what are solutions that we can really gravitate to in the community. And I just see so much opportunity, and these conversations bring me so much hope. And I know so many of you guys that are listening right now, you're like, this is on time. Like, this is something we have to do. We have to figure out as a community of people. And that doesn't mean other people are excluded, but there's work that has to be done inward and outward. You know what I mean? And there's certain work that can't be done by other people. It just can't. You know what I mean? We could talk about reconciliation. We could talk about all these different organizations doing all this stuff. But if we're not pouring into one another and building each other up, if we are looking at other people who are, and I'm just going to call it out, people of color who see other people of color and you don't even want to talk to them, or you don't want anything to do with them. You know what I mean? And like that's your right. That's your privilege. You don't have to do anything. But if there is no unity within our community, like the things that we're talking about, trying to create and build, it's not going to sustain. It's going to be very much a picture, and that's all it's going to be. It's not going to be any substance to this. Lou, what's the one last thing you want our listeners to hear from you today about any of the topics that we have, but specifically, how can we move our communities forward, specifically the Spokane community?
You made a good, we all know what our community divides are. Yeah. We all know that we have problematic humans within all of our spaces. Yes. And, something that I have been working on is we have to heal. We have to go on healing journeys personally. Everybody does. Yeah. And then we have to create space for that healing to happen. And we have to be really honest about the harm. We've all done harm. Yes. And, I think there's a book that Adrienne Marie Brown wrote, and it's, transformational justice is a very meaty topic, and it's very hard to digest in a bigger context. But Adrienne Marie Brown wrote that we will not cancel us. And I think there's some really clear things that I took away from that. And that is, if we cancel us, that problematic human, whether they're in our community or not, will move to another group and exhibit the same harm. Wow. And so we have to get good on identifying, is it a mistake? Is it harm? Is it abuse? And what does the accountability look like? Is it a critique? Is it a conversation, or is it something stronger about public boundaries because this human cannot engage in a way that is healthy for all of us, or a victim needs them to be removed from a space because of that? And I think that's the extreme. Mm-hmm. And I think that also creates this thing where people are afraid to make mistakes because they know if I make a mistake, I'll just be thrown out. Yep. And we can't do that to people. People don't need to be thrown out. They need to be cared for. Yep. They need to be confronted, and they need to be given an opportunity to course correct. And the second thing is, and this is something like it's written on my wall, I think about it all the time. I get a lot of shit from my more radical humans that I engage with, but because I'm a bit of a capitalist. Justice-driven, liberated capitalism. When I say it just feels good because we can do that. We can totally do that. When I was going through my MBA program, the first thing I took away is like stakeholder like making money is easy. What a boring thing to do is just to make money. But what gets interesting is when you consider all of your stakeholders, when the planet is your stakeholder, when the full community, not just your stakeholders who are getting dividends, but your whole community, from the people who work there to the service that you're providing outside of that entity, all of those are stakeholders. When you look at creating an opportunity and making that business, making that opportunity good for more people, good for the planet, that gets fun. That's creative. That's the type of thinking that we all need to engage in if we really want better communities. And so we all need to heal. We all need to call each other in. And it doesn't mean that there's not accountability or hard conversations, but it also means that we have to all acknowledge that we've done some harm. And then we need to engage in justice-driven, liberated capitalism.
Yeah. I don't even know what to do with that. Lou, where can people find you? Like they're just like, I need to talk to her. I need some consulting. I need some liberation in my mindset, in my community, in my business. Where can they find you?
I have a yoga website, so you can always reach me at the Wake Yoga. And so I talk about wake a lot. Like, I believe, like, regardless if we're aware of it or not, when we enter a space, our vibes enter that space first. Yes. And so like the wake that we create. So I talk a lot about wake. So my yoga practice is thewakeyoga.com. You can also find me on the SIMBA website, which is Spokane independent.org. You can find me on my website, which is Lacrecia, LACRECIA.com. And any of those will make your way to me. And that would probably be the best way to find me or get it. Although I will say I have suffered a pretty serious knee injury, so I am out of yoga until about the 23rd of next month. But I will be back at it as soon as I can stand on it. It doesn't mean you're going to get all of the postures, but I'll be able to definitely cue you into your postures. And join a business community. Make sure that you're joining a SIMBA, a Black Business Association, a Hispanic Black Business Association, a CDI. I don't care where you find it, but find a business community, because nobody does it alone. We do it with each other.
Y'all, I don't know what else y'all want from me today, okay? Luda come in here and mopped us all up, okay? She has just taken us across the floor. I hope this podcast helped you to think about what we are doing in our community. I want to thank you so much, Lou, for just being here and taking time out of your busy schedule to like connect with me, because I knew you're so busy. You have your own family, you've got your own business, and then you're working and doing all these different things in the community. And I just want to say thank you so much for everything you're doing, even leading out the new organization, Spectrum. Is it Spectrum? That was right. Okay. Spectrum. Yes. I'm like, every space that I've been in right now, that your organization is being talked about a lot. And I just want to say thank you so much for doing the work that you do. And thank you so much for being here. I hope this is not the last time we get together, because I definitely, we have some great stuff coming up in the future. And so, Lou, thank you so much. You guys, thank you so much for listening. I hope to see you on the next podcast series. You guys, you know what? I'm sending you all the strength and love. And until next time here at the Learning Project, see you guys soon. Bye. Hi, this is Stephanie. I just want to say thank you so much for listening to my podcast segment today. I don't know if you live in the Spokane, Washington area, but we are encouraging everyone that owns a Black-owned business, at least 50%, to register their businesses with the Carl Maxey organization. You do not want to miss this. Check out their page and definitely enroll your organization or business to stay connected with our local community.